Hello, my name is Chloe, welcome to my channel. Today I'm bringing to you the latest list of books I've unhauled lately. So I do these videos periodically of all of the books that have left my physical collection. I have about 500 physical books, so it's really important that if I don't love a book or if I feel like DNFing a book, that does really get the boot and leave, because I just don't have the space. So you may have noticed we're in a different location. We are in my bedroom and actually, yeah, there are clothes in the way. We're in my bedroom and that is where I keep a massive Amazon box of books that need to leave my life. So that's where we are. I couldn't lug it across the flat. There are 25 books here that I'd like to tell you about that I started preparing the list in the middle of January and finished it off at the start of April. So I haven't really been unhauling books at the speed I was before, but there are quite a few here. As I normally say, if there are any books here that you're really interested in, then please do let me know. If I hold it up physically, that means at the time of filming it's still in my possession, so I'd be happy to pass them on to you. I do ask that people at least cover postage, but there are some books that I am hoping to sell. And also, when I unhaul books, if I'm not planning to sell them, I do list them on my BOOKSWAP profile pretty much instantly, and that is always linked down in the description if you would like to join BOOKSWAP. So yes, that is UK only at the minute though, so yeah. Let's just crack on with the 25 books that I unhauled lately. So first up we have one that I DNF'd, and that is The Hand, the Eye and the Heart by Zoe Marriott. This is a really pretty shiny cover and this copy is actually signed, but I did not vibe with this book at all. I tried to read it physically and then I noticed the audiobook was on SCRIBD, so I gave that a go and unfortunately I still couldn't get into it. This is about Zilan, who was assigned female at birth. Despite a gift for illusions, they are destined to live out their life within the confines of the women's quarter. But when civil war sets the empire aflame, Zilan is determined to save their disabled father from the battlefield by taking his place. And yeah, sadly I just didn't vibe with the writing, and I had to DNF this twice. So I really did try, but it wasn't my cup of tea, and it's unfortunately leaving my collection. Such a pretty book. Next up we have one that Rachel will throw things at her computer for, and that is Olive by Emma Gannon. I read this on Rachel from Rachel Kerris's recommendation. She really loves this book. It's one of her all-time favourites, but sadly it just missed the mark for me. I'm not going to reread it, so it is time to leave my collection. But this says, from first loves and first heartbreaks to flat shares and their first scary steps into the real world, they've been through it all together. But in the maze of life, through the winding paths that lead to different choices and different futures, will the bonds of friendship hold strong when Olive needs them most? And yeah, unfortunately it just fell a little bit flat for me, and I think I gave it 3 or 3.5 stars, so I won't be reading it again, and I need space on my bookshelf, so this one is going. And next up we have the Chloe's Crime Scene Corner pick for, I don't even know which month anymore, January maybe, and that is Death Row by Michelle Lyons. Unfortunately I didn't like this book. This is about, what was her name, Michelle Lyons, the author, who was a journalist, and she would go to Huntsville prison in Texas and witness the death row executions to record the final moments. And I just did not like the writing style of this book at all. I really thought that as a journalist, this really showed promise in how it was going to be written and how engaging it was, but I was thoroughly bored throughout this. So was the rest of the book club. So yeah, I don't need to read this again. I do think it was very meaningful at points, talking about death row and the inmates and the victims, but it just wasn't what I wanted from this book, so I'm not going to read it again. One that's already gone is The Unheard by Nikki French. This is a book I was given by Tandem as part of, as a mystery read along, so I did not know the book at the time of requesting it, and sadly this book fell really flat for me. Obviously it's already gone, but I just did not care for the characters. I didn't care for the mystery. I think I remember what happened, but really, it's just gone from my mind, and I'm happy I'm not thinking about it anymore. I forgot it wasn't even on this list, so that one is gone. But next up, another Chloe's Crime Scene Corner pick, which this would have been February if I'm working out these months right. It was Girl A by Abigail Dean. I was very, very, very excited to read this one, but again, just fell flat. I think for this one, the story was amazing, but the writing style really let it down. This is about Lex, who lived in an abusive family, and when she escapes one night, she becomes known as Girl A, and the family all get split up, the kids get split up, and it's about their life moving forward from that. Kind of. I've done a very bad job of explaining that. My main problem with this book is that it was 7 chapters long, which made it very difficult for a buddy read with the book club, because I had to split 7 chapters into like however many days reading. And I just kind of lost interest with this. I do think it was a good story. Maybe it would work better on audiobook, I'm not sure. But yeah, didn't love it. Another one that's already gone is A Danger to Herself and Others by Alyssa Sheenmull. This is a book that I read via audio, but I did have a physical copy, and it actually went in a box to zip it. You know, they give you a couple of pennies per book, but it gets them out of your life. So I gave them some books, and this one, for me, it was just too predictable. So this is about a girl who goes into a mental health institution, and she's there because her friend at a summer school, well, a girl at a summer school that she met, has fallen from a massive height and is very, very, very injured, and it is presumed that the main character could be responsible and could be a danger to herself and others, as the title suggests. I feel like the plot twists in this were very, very predictable, and I don't know whether that's because I was going back and reading a YA after I've read so many young adult mental health based books. But yeah, wasn't a bad book, but I just knew what was happening the whole time, which kind of ruined the big reveal. Now I have a book that, Chelsea, don't hate me, because I was going to send this to you and somehow it ended up in the Zip-It box, and I'm very annoyed at myself, but a book I unhauled was You by Carolyn Kepnes. This was another one where I had the physical book, but I listened to the audiobook, and I'm very glad I did, because it was really creepy at times. This is about a character called Joe, who is a massive stalker. He is stalking Beck, but the book is written in second person, so it's as if he is stalking you. And it was very creepy at times. It did make me shiver, especially towards the start, but it kind of did get a little bit samey and not very interesting by the end of it. So I didn't love it, and I unhauled it. I realise I've been talking a long time, so I'm going to speed these up now. I then have 2 books in a series that I'm unhauling. One I'm really sad about, but the sequel brought it down so far that I don't see myself rereading these books, and that is Ink and Spark by Alice Broadway. Obviously these books are absolutely gorgeous, we can see that. This book, I would have put it as one of my favourites of all time, especially in a YA dystopian category. I've given it 5 or 4.5 stars every time I've read it, and I reread it in February so that I could finally read the sequel, which is Spark. And this book was so dull in comparison. So the, I don't know what the series is called, I should probably know, but this society is one where you are tattooed throughout your life of all of the things you've done, good or bad, jobs, finishing school, things like that. Everything gets tattooed onto your skin, and when you die, your skin is flayed and turned into a book for your family members to keep. And the family can only keep the book after your book is weighed and determined by the council of this society whether your life is worth remembering. Very interesting concept, and book 1 really pulled that off. It was so intense. I loved almost every second of it, and I'd read it 3 times by the point of reading Spark. So I'd read this one, but then this one, like, how do you follow on from that story? I thought it was done pretty poorly, and I have no intention to read the 3rd book. I don't remember what it's called at this point, but yeah, no intention to carry on, so may as well unhaul the series. I think I might regret it in future with Ink, but this copy actually isn't perfect. It came secondhand. So yeah, if I see it again one day, maybe I'll grab another copy, but I'm not too bothered by it. I'm okay with these leaving. Next up, we have The Fear by C.L. Taylor. This is a thriller about Lou Wandsworth, who Lou ran away with her teacher to France when she was in high school. I always say teacher. I know from reading it, it's not her teacher. It's like her karate instructor or something. So she runs away with her, let's say, teacher as a teenager. She's then back in this town, which is actually set very close to my house. Like, my actual town was mentioned in this several times, and all of the neighboring towns. So she goes back and she sees that this guy, this teacher slash instructor who took her away, is cozying up with, let's say, another teenager called Chloe. So we had a Chloe that was working in a garden centre, which I know is less than 2 miles from my house. But really, that was weird to read. But the whole story just was a little bit flat for me. The last chapter or two was absolutely horrendous, and like the things that were revealed were horrendous, and I loved it. That nearly redeemed the book for me, but overall I just found it a teeny tiny bit dull. I'm not going to read it again, but yeah, that last bit, loved. The story throughout was kind of more contemporary than thriller, but the ending made it a thriller, if that makes sense. Either way, I'm not going to read it again. Next up, we have Tilly and the Book Wanderers by Anna James, which I really did enjoy, but I thought my goddaughter would enjoy it more, so it's currently in a box waiting for her. And yeah, when I read middle grades now, I'm saving them aside for her. I'm keeping all of the little goodies that I get, like colouring papers and pencils and stuff, and I'm just going to give her a big box of treats, so that is waiting in there. Next up, we have Hollow Pike by Juno Dawson. And this I did enjoy. I think I gave it 4 stars in the end, actually. But it is a YA kind of contemporary mixed with horror-ish, thriller-ish, I guess. I do think it's branded as more witchy than it says. It says where witchcraft never sleeps and something wicked this way comes. I do think it is more contemporary based. So this is about our main character called Liz, who moves in with her sister after she's being bullied at school, so her older sister. So she moves with the sister, starts a new school, and finds out that the girls at school are just as bitchy, but there is a niche group that she can make friends with, and she starts really getting to know everybody. But then she starts getting threatened and she's having very weird dreams. So it was good, I would recommend it, but I don't think I'm ever going to read this again. Next up, we have Ring by Koji Suzuki. I was very happy to receive this book. I only got it for Christmas from my mom. She wrapped it up, put it in a stocking, and I took it all the way to America with me. And seeing as it's a like self-published heavy paperback, wasn't too impressed when I opened it, that I'd carried it all the way across the world. But yes, I was very grateful to receive this, but sadly I've read it and didn't really love it. It took me about 3 months to read this book, and you know, it's not very long. This is the Japanese classic, I guess. I said classic with that face, I've just checked. It was published in 1991, so it does feel quite old to me right now, but not the oldest of books. But yes, it has been translated since and turned into, I believe there is a Japanese movie and then an American like horror movie based on this book. I definitely went in thinking this was more horror than it was. It's more of a mystery, but it is about a girl who is found dead, like contorted in fear, and our main character Azakawa, I'd like to say, who becomes absolutely fixated on solving this case and finding out why these teenagers, because there are multiple, have died in this way. And he ends up watching, actually I'm going to stop talking because I can't remember where things happened in this. As I said, it took me like 3 months to read, so who knows where the reveals were in this. All I know is that at the start there is a girl dead, contorted in fear, and our main character would like to solve the murder slash weird death. But yes, very odd. Sadly, I only gave it 2 stars in the end, but yeah, I feel like people would enjoy this. Maybe I'm just too picky. Next up, we have The Silent Companions by Laura Purcell, which is sadly just one that I've unhauled without reading. I didn't think I was going to love it in the end. This says, newly married, newly widowed Elsie is set out to see out her pregnancy at her late husband's crumbling country estate, The Bridge. With her new servants resentful and the local villagers actively hostile, Elsie only has her husband's awkward cousin for company, or so she thinks. For inside her new home lies a mysterious wooden figure, a silent companion that bears an unsettling resemblance to Elsie herself. I haven't read it. I don't have anything to say. But yeah, just decided I wasn't going to get to this one. Next, I have one that I've already gotten rid of, and that is Winterwood by Shay Earnshaw. I passed this on to the lovely Victoria. I didn't dislike it. It was a very beautiful book. It was beautifully written, but the story did nothing for me, so I've unhauled that one and passed it to Victoria. I then have books 1 and 2 in the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina books, which are Season of the Witch and Daughter of Chaos. I actually sold these online like 2 days ago, so they're packaged up in my living room. But these are companion stories to the Netflix series Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, which I really love. Sadly, the books just didn't blow me away, so I have decided to unhaul them. I have the third one, Path of Night, left to read, and yeah, just didn't knock my socks off, so I've decided to get rid. Next up, we have Wrangle by Darren Charlton. I read this one with Claire over on Instagram at Books and Ink last month, the month before, and this is a YA zombie romance survivalist kind of story. I just didn't love the writing of this. I loved the concept, but it read so quickly. I read it in basically one evening, but not in a good way, where I felt like it was too easy to read and I was missing things. I don't know if that makes any sense to anyone but me, but yeah, didn't love this. It's gone. Well, it's going. The next one I've unhauled is How to Make Friends with the Dark by Kathleen Glasgow, which I have already unhauled. This one was a YA story about grief, where the main character's mother dies all of a sudden, and it's our main character coming to terms with how to deal with her mother's death. I liked this, but I didn't love it. I was never going to reread it, and I had a very battered and bruised copy, so I passed it on online. Next up, we have Our Chemical Hearts by Crystal Sutherland. This is another YA contemporary. It's about Henry and Grace. Grace is a little bit weird, but Henry starts to fall for her. Just the typical YA story. And it says there's something broken about Grace. A small part of her soul is cracked from the secrets in her past. Henry wants nothing more than to put her back together again, but will she let him? And it was sweet. I think I gave it 3 stars. I'm just never going to read it again. It didn't make a lasting impact on me. We then have Even If We Break, and this is a book that I have not read. I tried. I've heard awful things about it. I kind of picked up the physical book and didn't really pay attention, so then I tried the audiobook on SCRIBD. I got potentially 20 minutes into it and I had no idea what was going on. No, that's a lie. I think I maybe listened to an hour, had no idea what was going on, so just decided to unhaul it. I've heard no good reviews, but yeah, this is like a perfect hardback copy that just, it's gotta go. Next up, I have The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang. Do not panic, there is nothing wrong with this book. The lovely Lucy gifted me the illustrated cover, which is now on my shelf, so I don't need this cover that I don't like and have never seen before. This is still one of my favourite books of all time, and it will continue to be in my book collection thanks to the lovely copy from Lucy. This is an adult smutty romance about a lady with Asperger's who decides she would like some training in how to have a boyfriend and how to have sex. So, good times. I then have This Is Why We Lie by Gabriella Lepore. This was an arc I received from Harper 360 YA, and I did like it, I just didn't absolutely love it. So for some reason I had said that I was going to keep every arc I received from publishers, but that's just not going to be realistic. I hope I will continue to receive some, but I now have 5 in my apartment, 3 of which I still haven't finished. But yeah, it's not really, if I don't love a book, I probably shouldn't be keeping it, so let's not extend that to arcs, and that one I do have plans for. And then, speaking again of arcs from Harper 360 YA, we have We Were Kings by Court Stevens. This was a YA mystery in a society where there is now the accelerated death penalty, which means after conviction, somebody on death row can be executed within 30 days. And this whole book is about our main character, Nyla, who would like to prove that her mother's best friend, Frankie, did not kill her sister Cora, because Frankie has now been put on the accelerated death penalty program. She will be killed, but Nyla and her mom do not believe that she could have done this. So yeah, I did enjoy this. I actually ended up listening to the audiobook because by the time I got to reading it, it was already on SCRIBD. So I did listen to the audiobook. This has not been read. But yeah, this one I'll have to think more about because it is an arc, so I can't sell it to you guys. But if you have anything you would like to offer me for this, let me know. And finally, we have The Good Daughter by Karen Slaughter. Please do not be fooled, I do have this physically, so this is the only one on screen that you can still request from me. This was the book club read for April for Chloe's Crime Scene Corner, and unfortunately I did not love it. Isn't that great? My foot's gone numb. I shouldn't sit on the floor to film. But yeah, I did enjoy this one. I think I gave it 3 or 3.5 stars. In the end, 3 stars. It was a 3-star read. but just sadly it didn't knock my socks off. I wasn't absolutely obsessed with it, and I can't see myself rereading it. My main issue with this is that I guessed the plot twist and the ending by the time I was 150 pages into a 500-page book. So if I guessed it on the first read before I knew all the facts, I'm not going to be able to reread this, so it needs to go from my collection. But thank you for the recommendation and the gift on this one, Victoria. So there we have it. Those are all of the books that I have unhauled lately. I've already started my next list of books, so please do be on the lookout for that one. But yeah, that is all I have time for today. I've been talking a very long time, so thank you so much for watching. I really do hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in my next one. Bye guys.